so hot. It melted it. And we couldn't move. Our shoes were stuck into the tarmac. It was so funny. And we
concern you.
This concerns me. I had copies made at the Hall of Records today.
Me and try to get him away all along, didn't you?
You can't blame me for that, Mama. Not for trying to get my boy back.
I blame you for using other people to achieve your aims.
Dallas. The empire that changed television forever. Stop for a second and think, when was the last time the entire world stopped to watch the same thing? I'm not talking about the World Cup or the Olympics. I'm talking about a TV series, a fiction. Seems impossible today, doesn't it? With streaming, social media, thousands of options. But in 1980, it happened. And if you lived through that era, you probably remember exactly where you were that day. If you're younger, ask your parents, your grandparents. Do you remember Dallas? Remember who shot JR? And watch their eyes light up. Because Dallas wasn't just a series. It was a phenomenon that hijacked the planet's attention in a way that has never happened again, and maybe never will. Who shot JR? That question echoed on every corner of the world in 1980. 350 million people watched the episode that would reveal the shooter. Can you imagine that number? It's more people than the entire population of the United States at that time. More than 3 Super Bowls combined. And here's something that will surprise you. In Israel, Parliament interrupted official sessions. Politicians literally stopped legislating to find out who had shot J.R. Ewing. In Turkey, the government postponed municipal elections. You read that right. They postponed elections. In Brazil, you know what happened? Entire villages in the interior that didn't have electricity installed generators. People pooled money to buy generators just to watch Dallas, just to know who shot J.R. If you think that's exaggerated, tell me in the comments. Have you ever been so obsessed with a series that you changed your life for it? And if you lived through the Dallas era, tell us, what was it like in your house? Did your family watch? Did you theorize? But before we get to that historic moment, let me tell you something few people know. Dallas almost didn't exist, at least not in the form we know it. When it premiered in April 1978, it was just a 5-episode miniseries. 5. CBS didn't believe it would work. It was just another test, another low-risk bet. And look, the original idea was completely different. Creator David Jacobs wanted to make a series about ordinary families, normal people, everyday problems. But CBS executives said, boring. Nobody wants to see ordinary people. We want luxury. We want oil. We want Texas. And you know what? They were right. Because what made Dallas explode wasn't ordinary problems. It was the extraordinary problems of extraordinarily rich and extraordinarily unscrupulous people. And at the center of it all was him, J.R. Ewing, played by Larry Hagman, the villain you loved to hate or hated to love. Depends on who you ask. By the way, for the comments, did you root for J.R. or against him? Because that's the question that divided families back then. Some people thought J.R. was a genius, a man doing what was necessary in a cruel world. And some wanted to see him burn in hell. But everyone, absolutely everyone, was obsessed with him. And here's the secret that will shock you. Larry Hagman almost didn't get the role. The producers wanted Robert Foxworth, a more traditional actor, more classic Hollywood leading man. Hagman? He was considered problematic, had a history of alcoholism, reputation for being difficult. Executives looked at him and saw headaches. It was only through pure stubbornness from creator David Jacobs that Hagman got the role. And that problem became the highest-paid actor on American television. But there's another layer to this story that's fascinating. Hagman accepted J.R. Ewing for revenge. That's right, revenge. He had starred in I Dream of Jeannie in the 60s, absurd rating success. But you know how many Emmys he won? 0. How many times was he taken seriously as an actor? 0. Hollywood saw him as a sitcom clown, and that ate at him inside. J.R. Ewing would be his redemption, his chance to prove he was a real dramatic actor. And he was willing to do anything to make it work. And tell me something, have you ever had a moment like that in life? That chance to prove everyone was wrong about you? Share in the comments how it went. Now, while Dallas was winning over audiences, there were powerful people wanting to destroy the series. And I'm not exaggerating. Specialized critics hated Dallas with passion. The New York Times called it a Texan-Mexican soap opera, and that wasn't a compliment. Time magazine wrote, "Cultural garbage packaged for export." Renowned critics wrote entire columns attacking the series' morality. And look, there's an honest question I want to ask you. When was the last time you saw critics so enraged by a successful series? Nowadays, critics say one thing and audiences do another, right? But in 1980, this caused real scandal. And it wasn't just the critics. Evangelical churches, especially in the American South, organized campaigns against Dallas. Preachers gave entire sermons attacking the Ewings. They said the series glorified adultery, betrayal, greed, that it was corrupting America's Christian values. Some churches even organized prayer groups for Dallas to be canceled. Can you imagine? People literally praying for a series to go off the air. If you're religious or have a religious family, tell me, in your house, was there this kind of controversy? Did your parents let you watch or did they forbid it? Feminists also attacked hard, and look, with some reason. The early seasons showed women mainly as objects of desire or victims of powerful men. Pamela was too passive. Sue Ellen was the fragile, alcoholic wife. Miss Ellie, submissive to patriarchy. And this generated heated debates. Because at the same time, these characters were complex. Sue Ellen, especially, had an incredible evolution throughout the series. She started as a victim and became one of the strongest characters on TV. So the question is, was Dallas sexist or was it showing sexism? What's your opinion? Leave it in the comments because this debate is interesting even today. But you know what was the most common argument against Dallas? It's just cheap escapism. It has no artistic value. It's irrelevant. And here's the delicious irony. While American critics attacked, world leaders secretly watched. Queen Elizabeth II of England confessed in an interview to being a devoted fan. She watched every episode religiously. This caused scandal in the conservative British press. The Queen watching this American vulgarity. But she wasn't alone. Prime ministers, presidents, dictators, everyone watched. And there's a story that's simply surreal. In communist Romania, dictator Nicolae Ceausescu allowed Dallas to be shown on state TV. His logic? He thought the series would show the rot of capitalism, the corruption, the lack of values. It would be perfect anti-American propaganda. But you know what happened? It went completely wrong. Romanians were fascinated, not by the corruption, by the freedom, by the possibility of choosing, of having, of dreaming. Things unthinkable under communism. Dallas became anti-communist propaganda by accident. And when the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, reporters interviewed East Germans running to the West. Several mentioned Dallas as inspiration. They wanted the possibility of being J.R. Ewing, or at least of trying. Have you ever stopped to think about the power a TV series had in bringing down an ideology? Tell me in the comments. Which series or movie changed your worldview? But while Dallas conquered the world, backstage was a war zone. Larry Hagman waged a silent and brutal battle with the studios. He knew exactly what he was worth, knew that without JR, Dallas would die, and he used that mercilessly. His demands were absurd. He wanted to be the highest-paid actor on TV, not just on Dallas, on all American television. He wanted creative control. He wanted to approve directors. He wanted a limousine bigger than the network presidents. He wanted a trailer bigger than everyone else's, with individual air conditioning, personal chef, personalized decoration. And you know what happened? He got everything. Every absurd demand. But that had a price. The other actors started to hate Hagman. Patrick Duffy, who played Bobby Ewing, earned a fraction of Larry's salary. And that hurt deeply. Victoria Principal constantly fought for better scripts. She was tired of being just the pretty wife. Linda Gray fought for Sue Ellen to be more than the suffering alcoholic. Tensions were so intense that there were days when Hagman and Duffy barely spoke outside of scenes. Victoria refused to rehearse with Larry. Linda cried in her dressing room before filming. The Dallas set was an emotional minefield. But here's the secret. When the cameras turned on, magic happened. Because that real anger made the scenes better. The tension between Hagman and Duffy gave more intensity to JR and Bobby's scenes. Victoria's resentment gave authenticity to Pamela's vulnerability. It was toxic, but it worked perfectly. And tell me, have you ever worked in an environment like that? Where conflict fed the result? How was it? Then we arrive at March 1980, and everything changes. End of the third season. JR is in his office late at night. A noise. He turns. Bang! Bang! 2 shots. JR falls. Blood. Shock. Black screen. And then silence. And the question that would change television history. Who shot JR? Now, if you lived through that era, I need you to tell in the comments. Do you remember where you were when you saw that episode? Who were you with? How did you react? Because this is one of those memories that stays engraved forever. And look at this crazy thing. That cliffhanger was almost an accident. The writers were desperate, out of ideas for the season finale. 3 a.m, writer's room, eating cold pizza, panicking. They needed to deliver the script in 6 hours. That's when a junior writer, half asleep, blurted out, "What if we just shot him?" Everyone laughed. It was too obvious, ridiculous. But then someone realized they had 8 months until the next season. 8 months of speculation, 8 months of free publicity. It was risky, could be disastrous, but it was genius, and the madness began. Newspapers around the world ran daily polls. Betting houses in Las Vegas, London, Monte Carlo accepted bets with official odds. Sue Ellen was the favorite, 3-1. I Shot JR. T-shirts sold millions on every continent. Unofficial merchandising moved $200 million. $200 million. And Larry Hagman, absolute master of manipulation. He gave interviews saying even he didn't know who the shooter was, that they had filmed different endings. Total lie. He knew from the beginning. But secrecy was power. And during those 8 months, Hagman negotiated the biggest salary increase in TV history. Executives had no choice. They needed him alive. November 21st, 1980, the day the world stopped. 350 million people watching simultaneously. Water companies reported a drastic drop in consumption. Nobody went to the bathroom afraid of missing the moment. In European countries, traffic dropped 40%. Empty restaurants, cinemas canceled sessions. And the revelation, Kristen Shepard, JR's sister-in-law, rejected ex-lover, secondary character nobody expected. And tell me, if you watched, were you satisfied with the revelation? If you didn't watch, who do you think it should have been? Leave it in the comments. But success has a price. Always. In 1985, Patrick Duffy decided to leave the series. He was tired of the humiliations, of being Hagman's shadow. Bobby Ewing would die. The producers offered double the salary. Duffy refused. It wasn't about money. It was about dignity. So they killed Bobby in a car accident. Heroic, tragic, final. Fans cried. It seemed perfect. But the following season without Bobby was a disaster. Ratings plummeted. The audience didn't care anymore. Dallas was dying. And then they did something that would change TV forever. They decided to resurrect Bobby. But how? He was dead, buried, mourned. The solution? Declare that the entire previous season had been Pamela's dream. 31 episodes. An entire year. Millions of dollars. Everything. A dream. Pam wakes up, hears the shower, enters the bathroom, and there's Bobby. Alive. "Good morning?" As if nothing had happened. The reaction was explosive. Tell me in the comments. Do you think that was genius or ridiculous? Because fans were violently divided. Some loved having Bobby back. Others felt betrayed, manipulated. Critics called it the most ridiculous moment in TV history. But you know what happened? It worked. Ratings returned. And Dallas proved. On TV, nothing is permanent, not even death. Everything can be rewritten, for better or worse. The final years, 1988 to 1991, were melancholic. The world was changing. The Cold War ended. The wall fell. And suddenly, billionaires fighting over more billions seemed irrelevant, insensitive. Ratings fell. In May 1991, after 13 seasons and 357 episodes, Dallas was canceled, without fanfare, with a whisper. The final episode showed JR alone, drunk, with a gun. The camera focuses on his face. A shot. Black screen. Again the ambiguity. But this time, nobody cared enough. The magic was over. Larry Hagman would say years later, JR deserved better. We deserved better. And he was right. But the legacy? Undeniable. Dallas invented the season cliffhanger, popularized nighttime soap operas, showed that villains could be protagonists. That morality was relative. And decades later, look at TV. Succession, Billions, Empire, Yellowstone, Game of Thrones, all owe DNA to Dallas. Because Dallas taught us something disturbing. We need the villains, not to hate, but to understand who we are when nobody's looking. J.R. Ewing was the question nobody wanted to ask. What if I had that power? Would I be better? And for 30 minutes weekly, we could be ruthless too. We could be J.R., and we loved every second. So now it's your turn. Did you watch Dallas? Did your parents watch? Who did you root for? Which character marked you? And if you've never seen it, after this video, did you want to? Comment down below. I want to know all the stories, theories, memories, and if you lived through the Dallas era, please tell the younger ones what it was like, because this will never happen again, and it needs to be remembered.